Madridistas, we did it. We did it. We won La Liga title, number 36. What a fantastic day. Listen, welcome back to the channel. Listen, this match was fantastic. The second half was great. Leaves us with such good, vibes going into that critical match on Wednesday. Really good news all around. Listen, in terms of the traditional Cibeles celebration was postponed until next Sunday. Ancelotti made it clear that, the players weren't going to sit around for 2 hours waiting to see what Barça does to then try to celebrate. There were a lot of people away from Madrid as well because it was kind of a long holiday weekend here. So also in terms of just concentration, Ancelotti, they left the celebration to next Sunday. And of course, I'll be there. But listen, let's talk about this, fantastic victory, 3-0 over Cadiz. Subsequently, Barça managed to self-implode again against Girona. For those of you that didn't watch the Xavi interview after the Girona match, I strongly recommend you do so. I think Barça needs to hire a team of psychiatrists to address the kind of delusion that these people inhabit. I think it is truly worthy of clinical observation. But anyway, listen, we won this title, lots to discuss. Let's talk about the match. And as always, do player ratings, which we do for La Liga matches. So thanks for joining me again. Let's get started. All right, Madridistas, welcome back. Listen, before we get started, one little anecdote I wanted to share with you guys. Now, I'm new to this whole YouTube thing. This channel's I'm barely 3 months old. But I got a message from, one of my subscribers saying, hey, I'm coming with my wife to see the Cadiz match. We live in Germany, in Düsseldorf. It would be cool to meet you. And we actually did meet up and hang out. So it was really cool. So Suva, Sazwati, it was really, really cool to meet you guys. And, please come back next year and, we'll do it again. Anyway. All right, so let's get started on the match. Now this, like I mentioned in the intro, this is a really good feel-good type match. I mean, this I think the vibe in the stadium, the vibe with the players was so positive. It's sort of exactly what we needed, ahead of this, critical match on Wednesday, which is just the biggest match of the year, without a doubt. But in terms of the match itself, so first half, look, it was great to see Militao and Courtois on the pitch again. It was really, really good to see. I mean, I think they both had reasonably good games. I do get the impression that there's still a little bit of fine-tuning to do with both of them, but it was fantastic to see them. Now, listen, this was the kind of classic match that we see in the Bernabeu all the time, okay? You have modest opposition that comes in. They defend very, very deep. It's, kind of very frustrating because, you can try to attack, but there's very, very little space. So I think the first half was just a little bit frustrating. I mean, the formation, in terms of the formation, it was, I think, the exact right amount of substitutes. Carvajal needed to come back because we need him to be sort of match fit for Wednesday. But we basically had Ceballos in the middle, sort of middle left, Modric in the sort of middle right. And it was pretty much one-way traffic. I mean, the entire first half was us attacking, Cadiz defending very, very deep. We were able to recover the ball very, very quickly. I mean, it just felt like very monotonous, just us trying, but not really finding any spaces. We were dominating, but we didn't really have any kind of bite in that last moment, in that last third. So that was kind of, not untypical. I mean, these matches happen a lot with sort of modest opposition that come to the Bernabeu. In the second half, I would say it was very similar. We start on the front foot. I would say that we had a little bit more intensity, and that was quite visible. But it was kind of very similar, us attacking most of the time. Cadiz managing to get a couple of breaks here and there that did look dangerous. But for the most part, it was sort of one-way traffic. We had an incredibly active Brahim, who I think was just stellar. He's just so full of energy and, just is constantly creating play. So, that was sort of kind of what the second half looked like. And then in the 50th minute, Brahim just pulls out one of these absolute gems that we know he's all capable of, just an absolutely fabulous strike with his right foot. I mean, it was just an absolutely perfect strike. And then again, more of the same, sort of us attacking, controlling the ball. And then the second goal was another work of art. I mean, this was just a wonderful play. Jude recovering a ball, pressing high, recovering the ball. Beautiful pass to Modric, who makes that one little fake just to give him perfect amount of time to draw the defenders, send the ball to Brahim, who then crosses it back in the middle, and Jude finishes. It was another real work of art. And then the third goal was just an absolutely spectacular run by Nacho. He showed so much speed. He had a fantastic game, by the way. Just a wonderful play by Nacho, who very generously passed the ball to Joselu. He could have scored himself, but just the goals were absolutely fantastic. Now, a couple of things I want to say, as sort of broader takeaways. This has been an incredible season. I've said this many times before in the channel, and I don't want to bore you guys, but I mean, if you consider all of the injuries we had, and not just Alaba, Courtois, Militao, but I mean, Vini was injured for 2.5 months. Jude was injured, then he had the red cards. I mean, we've dealt with so many issues throughout the year, and I really think that this year, Ancelotti has such an amazing track record as a manager, but I think this is his masterpiece because. If you would have told us at the beginning of the year with all the issues we faced that we would be in the semifinal of a Champions League in a very strong position because the score is pretty good coming back to the second leg, and that we would have won the Liga with these games remaining, I think it really, and managing the squad the way he did, I think this Ancelotti, I think this is truly his finest hour. So listen, another takeaway, and again along the same lines. I was discussing this with my uncle yesterday, that it is really amazing that Real Madrid is a team that the players that come off the bench are so good. I mean, it is such a luxury to have players that come off the bench with this kind of quality. I mean, the Brahims of the world, the Arda Gülers of the world, if they were in any other club, they would be the superstars of any other club. But, not only do they come off the bench and contribute really, really well, but their attitude is so positive. There's no there's not tension. There's not, you don't really perceive that there's kind of bitterness or I mean, they all understand their role. They all accept their situation. And Ancelotti has managed to make every single player feel like they're a critical component in the success of the club. And it's amazing to see. And you can see it in the interaction between the players. So it's, really, really spectacular, I think. Okay, now let's do player ratings real quick. All right, we'll start with Courtois. I mean, I'm going to give Courtois a 7. He didn't have a lot of work, but the work that he did have, he did very well. He had that one very, very good one-on-one. He stopped a couple of shots from distance, quite well. I'm sure that he's, maybe a touch rusty still, and I think he would acknowledge that. But I think he played very well. I think when he was called upon. No obvious mistakes, some very good saves. So I think Courtois deserves a 7. He would have had more if he had more work to do, but it wasn't that kind of match. Okay, Carvajal, I'm going to give Carvajal a 6. Now, it was just kind of an unremarkable performance. Look, he's always a very serious player. He always works really, really hard. He always gets the job done. But it was just a little bit more quiet than usual. I mean, especially in terms of contributing to attack. But I think he had a decent game, a solid game. I think 6 is probably a fair rating. Okay, Militao. I'm going to give Militao a 6. And I think, he did show some signs of the old Militao. And there was one pass, I can't remember what minute it was, but a really long diagonal pass that was spectacular. I mean, this was, Toni Kroos style pass. It was an absolutely fabulous pass. And then he had that wonderful shot from distance. Again, it kind of reminded us of the Militao of old. So I think he's probably still needs a little bit more time to get 100%, match fit. But I think he had a very solid game. So I'm going to give Militao a 6. Okay, Nacho, I'm going to give Nacho an 8. I think he was one of the best players on the pitch. He very, very quick, worked incredibly, incredibly hard. I think this was one of the best performances he's had all year. And then, of course, the run and the last goal was spectacular. The timing of his run and the quickness with which he got to the ball and the decision-making at the end to pass to Joselu. I think Nacho had a really fantastic match. I think he deserves an 8. Okay, Fran Garcia, I'm going to give a 6. not so much for quality, but more just kind of for work rate. I mean, he did work really hard. He ran a lot. He really put in a lot of effort physically. I just think that in attack, I've mentioned this in other videos. I always have the feeling he's a bit of a scatterbrain in attack. I always feel like maybe the cross is at the wrong time, or it's just, I don't know. I always feel like when he runs forward, it's a little bit chaotic. But he did work very hard, and I think deserves a 6. Okay, Camavinga is my man of the match. Camavinga's going to get a 9. This was a ridiculous performance. Okay, this was an absolutely ridiculous performance. Camavinga was everywhere. He was absolutely everywhere. He did everything in transition. He did everything to recover balls. If I had a dime for every ball this guy recovers, I would be a wealthy man. It's just nonstop. Another thing he did a few times yesterday that, I've mentioned Camavinga's elasticity in the past. He has these really long legs and just manages to poke the ball out. He's been coming up behind players a lot lately and just, when they don't see him from the blind side, just poking the ball away. So he's been stealing balls in so many different ways. I think he just had an absolutely perfect match. So Camavinga is going to get a 9. Okay, Modric. I'm going to give Modric an 8. I think he was very active, very fluid. He moved around a lot. He circulated the ball very well, very quickly, intelligently. His passing was accurate, and of course he participated in the second goal very intelligently. So I think he had a really very complete game. Was very active, and you just felt his presence, all over the pitch. So I think Modric had a wonderful game. I'm going to give him an 8. Okay, Ceballos. I'm going to give Ceballos a 7. Now, I've been very critical of him in the past. He's a player that sometimes tends to hold up the ball a lot, tends to lose the ball in kind of compromising situations sometimes, takes a little bit too much risk. But yesterday I found him very, very active. He participated an enormous amount in the attack. Most of the attack was coming on the left, so sort of, Brahim Ceballos as opposed to Modric Arda. But I think he worked really hard and contributed a lot, and I think he had a really solid game. So I'm going to give Ceballos a 7. Now, Arda Güler, I'm going to give Arda a 7. Didn't participate as much in attack as Brahim, but I don't think it was his fault necessarily. I think a lot of the flow of the game was happening on the left-hand side, and he was sort of spent most of the match on the right. But he did show us some. He did work very hard, for one thing. And he showed us a few glimpses of his technique. He had a few dribbles and a few little flicks and passes that, they remind us of the skill that this kid has. So I think he had a very, very solid game. So I'm going to give him a 7. And I'm really looking forward to seeing more of this kid next year and in the remainder of the season. Okay, Joselu. I'm going to give Joselu a 6. Now, he did work hard and try hard, but he was a little late on a couple of occasions. There were a couple of crosses where he was just a step too late. It happened on 2 or 3 occasions where if he had just been a little bit faster, a little bit more proactive, a little bit quicker, they could have resulted in goals. So I found him a little late on a couple of occasions, and he did miss a couple of chances that I think he could have done more with. But he did try very hard, and he did score that goal at the very end. So I'm going to give him a 6, which I think is fair. Okay, Brahim would be my other man of the match after Camavinga. He's exceptional. This guy, it's very difficult to even comprehend that this is a player that is on the bench most of the time because he is so technically gifted. His dribble is incredible. This guy can get out of any situation just with his technique and his speed. He was fantastic. And like I say, it's a luxury for this club to have players like this to come off the bench. It is a luxury. Believe me, they would be superheroes in any other club. So I think Brahim was valuable. And of course, the goal was just a work of art. It was just an absolutely spectacular goal. So Brahim gets a 9, very well deserved, and he would be, maybe my man of the match. And then in terms of the substitutes, I'll just, just a couple of mentions. I thought Jude was excellent. He came in with a lot of intensity. He looks physically back to his normal self, because in Munich, he felt a little off to me. But he definitely looked very switched on, looked very, quick, looked sharp, and looked like he had that energy level back. So Jude, I want to mention that. And then Vini, again, always electric. I mean, the guy just, his presence is so noticeable on the pitch. Just able to create things from nothing. He had a really beautiful Rabona. He crossed the ball with, it's called a Rabona. I don't know what it's called in English, but just an unbelievable with the opposite foot, crossing the ball in. Just spectacular. He always leaves us these wonderful technical little displays that just, they're just mouth-watering. So listen, let me just say, this is exactly the type of match that we needed ahead of Wednesday. The vibes in the squad are excellent. The mood is fantastic. So we really couldn't ask for more. And now we have the Liga, so we don't have to worry about that anymore. We can focus entirely on the Champions League. But listen, I thought it was a great performance. And again, Wednesday is just going to be massive, just absolutely massive. So listen, I'm going to leave you guys with that. I will probably do another preview ahead of the Bayern Munich match, and of course we'll do a post. But anyway, those are my thoughts on yesterday. The 36th title, let me just mention this. We are now tied with Juventus as the clubs in Europe with the most domestic league wins. So Juve and Real Madrid have 36. And to give you an idea how impressive that is, Bayern Munich has 32. And you know how dominant they are in Germany. So to have 36, I think is really, really impressive. So anyway, we'll celebrate this briefly and start getting ready for Wednesday. But those are my thoughts. Thank you guys, as always, for joining me. And as always, a la Madrid.